You're listening to the Interconnect Hub podcast, powered by DataGryd. DataGryd is a premier data center provider located in the iconic 60 Hudson Street building. To learn more, visit www.datagryd.com. Enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Interconnect Hub. This special episode originally aired on the Thought Cloud podcast and features Tom Brown, President and CEO of DataGryd, as he talks about turnkey data centers and the role they will play in edge computing. And now, let's tune in to the interview.
Today, we have with us Tom Brown, President and CEO of DataGryd. DataGryd is a data center provider located in New York City. Tom, could you tell us a little bit about what you do with the company and what the company does itself?
Sure. Thanks again for having me. I lead the company to its next level of growth, and I'm really excited about where we're positioned in the marketplace. DataGryd is a single asset data center located in the iconic 60 Hudson Street in New York City. Really, the differentiator between us and any other data center in the region is there's a couple of things. One, we are surrounded by the gateway to many on-ramps, whether it's a cloud, whether it's a service provider, exchange. There's well over 350 service providers located in this iconic building. So from a latency perspective, we are it. We have a 120,000 square foot data center of 15 megawatts of power. And really what we're doing in the marketplace today is changing the interconnection challenge. And really what that means is today, providers, customers are paying an inordinate amount on a monthly basis for connecting with one another through these meet-me areas. We have the ability to mitigate that and provide them with a direct connect product. Simply, what that is a 4-inch conduit that we go ahead and put a high fiber dense cable, and you connect from one partner to another, and we do not charge for monthly cross connects. So what we bring to the marketplace is a bit different, and we're able to really see the dense power applications that are really evolving in the marketplace today, from 2 kilowatts typically, which was 2 years ago, to now 5 to 10, and we're able to address that dense power application. So hopefully that paints a picture for you for what we do here and the listeners on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you so much for that explanation. From your perspective, can you give an overview of the mission-critical industry in terms of how it has evolved over the last couple of years and where you see it headed in the future?
So I'm going to use one word: exploded. And what I mean by that is that just the amount of data transmission that we will see and continue to see exponentially grow in our marketplace is still on that hockey stick trajectory. And really, without the emergence of the new technologies of 5G and AI and IoT really coming into play, you're seeing the number of zettabytes just exponentially growing. We can attribute that to the devices that we depend on day in and day out, and the experience that we need for streaming and for downloading content. And in today's world, and I have children of my own, that instant gratification is so key, right? I need to understand what that means right now. Growing up, you typically waited till the next day to see the news, or you grabbed the book and tried to look something up. But when you want to download a video, download information, it's at your fingertips, and that's really been attributing to the explosion in the data center and mission critical space today.
So can you talk to me a little bit more about the role of 5G and AI and how the continued adoption of these technologies will both benefit and challenge the industry?
Well, I think it's going to benefit from the continuous of the amount of data that's going to be processed. And not only that is where that data will be processed, whether it will be processed locally or will it go to large server farms, whether that's in remote areas of our country or our globe. But you're going to see a tremendous amount of data continuing to grow. But think about 5G. It's certainly redefining well beyond the traditional connectivity that we see today, right? Commerce service providers, also known as CSPs, they really need to make sure that they can handle these transactions, right? Some of the use cases that you see in the marketplace today that are continuing to evolve are cloud gaming, connected health, right? We're now able to connect. We walk with a watch telling us what our EKG is. And that's really evolving to these smart cities. So we have this ubiquitous service at all times, right? I asked my 16-year-old a question. I said, so what is it that you want to see in your iPhone? They don't make any phone calls, right? Well, Dad, I just want it to make sure it works. Well, let's dig down a little bit deeper. What is it that you want to see in your phone? Well, I want to make sure it works all the time, anytime, and wherever I am, I want to make sure it works. And that's pretty profound. And that's really some of the challenges that we have to ensure that we are connected 24/7, 365 days a year. So the impact on that is, how are we going to adopt to this? And now the emergence of the edge is coming into play. So what does that mean, right? That's a broad definition. We believe at 60 Hudson Street at DataGryd, we believe we're well positioned because of the 4 million eyeballs that sit outside our building today that need that connectivity to ensure that their experience exceeds their expectations. It's both an opportunity and a challenge, right? Because we got to make certain that we are well prepared. And this is going to be a challenge for, given organizations, their IT infrastructure, right? IT used to be one-dimensional. That was just handling all their back office. Well, now it's broadened throughout each organization. So very interesting on the impact of these new technologies.
So that brings up a couple questions I have. I guess we'll start with, since you brought up edge data centers, can you discuss the concept of turnkey data centers and the role they will play as the industry works to redefine edge computing and migrate over to the edge?
Sure. So I believe that edge data centers, they'll come in different forms, right? Think about a smart city today, and I speak on a lot of panels with folks that are building out these smart cities. Let's just take New York, for example. If we wanted to discuss where we were at with the rollout of 5G and these edge data centers, we are in the infancy stage right now. And I say that because we're still not through 4G yet. So edge data centers are going to take on different identities. One will be very much like something that resides at a cell tower, which will be a self-contained area where you're able to take down that data and traverse it over through and backhaul through fiber. Others are an edge data center like us in the metropolitan area, where you have a turnkey solution, where you're given the power, the equipment, and the necessary security that clients need in a defined footprint, whether it's a 50 kW or 100 kW or 250 kW. You're going to see these data centers shifting to right size that application.
And then the other thing you sort of touched on in your previous comment, I guess is sort of a two-part question, but how do you think this is changing the role of the IT network designers and the facility managers? And what can the data center operators do to ensure their assets remain safe and secure in the wake of these new technologies? Because it seems as the data is transferred faster and smarter, the hackers are also getting faster and smarter.
Yeah, so that's actually really a two-part question. I think what IT designers need to do is ensure that security has to be paramount. And I was at a conference this past summer in in the city here, and we had a representative from the U.S. government and retired, and dating back 20 and 30 years ago, it was imperative that we took security very, very seriously. And that needs to continue, right? Because with the evolution of these new technologies, so goes the hacker. So we got to be very cognizant of making sure that we button that up. It's not just the ability to make sure that we have the connectivity, but behind that is the systems to make sure that we are safe and secure. It is a huge, huge problem today, and I don't think we, in my own humble opinion, I don't think we are addressing it enough, because what we're trying to do is make sure that we have the technology in place, and then the security is somewhat an afterthought. So very, 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 very serious challenges that these IT designers need to take. Because it's just, again, when you think about an enterprise, you think about the impact. I mentioned earlier that whether it's cloud gaming, whether it's connected health, whether it's just a large enterprise building in real estate in a smart city, you're all interconnected, right? So you got to make sure that it's safe and secure. It's going to look very, very much different in the next 5 years, and if we thought about it in terms of the next 20 years, it's going to be completely different. But one thing that will not change is the amount of data that's going to be continue to grow, and the ability to be able to transmit that in a secure way.
So if you had to guess, what would you say would be the main differentiator between the data center landscape 5 years from now and 20 years from now?
It's analogous to building out the infrastructure, the fiber infrastructure that we saw 15, 20 years ago. And what I mean by that is that it's first going to be addressed in the next 5 years in the major cities. We call them NFL cities, right? Whether it's New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Miami, Dallas, the list goes on as you spread across the country. And then within 20 years, you're going to see that spread out into the more rural areas. It's all going to be aggregation points, but you're going to see a lot more dots on the map 20 years from now as it relates to the capabilities of 5G and AI and IoT as it relates to that. So you're going to see it pushed more and more out to what we can call the edge, right? The edge, we can call, so this particular discussion is the remote areas. It's going to have to happen for us to have that seamless experience in whatever application we are utilizing.
And as you said earlier, the industry's kind of exploded over the last couple of years in a way that I don't think anybody really imagined it would. Do you have any fear that the technology is not going to be able to keep up with the demands?
Technology and the demand is a direct correlation to the technology, right? You're only as good as what you have. And I'll go back to, my grandmother was born in 1888. And I asked her the question, and I said, Grandma, how is it that you live without power? And she said to me, you didn't know what you didn't have, right? So there'll be applications today that will be designed, but you can only utilize them if you have the technology in place. I believe that we will continue to find ways that will be more efficient, and from a data center perspective, you're going to see more density. From a power perspective, less space but more computing power to deliver these technologies. So I think they'll go hand in hand, and I don't think the demand will outweigh the technology or outpace the technology.
Okay. And do you have any advice for professionals in the industry right now, whether it's in terms of education or technology advancements and innovations from any side of the industry? What would you kind of say to people who are thinking about entering it or who are currently in it?
I appreciate that question, and I tell everybody that be informed, be curious. Just try to reach out and figure out if you're interested in a particular, hey, how does that work? And you can go to any search engine, Google any term, and you'll be well informed about, hey, how does 5G impact me as an individual? And you will be able to pick up a white paper. That would be for starters, because then that creates the passion about what we do day in and day out. So my only advice is to continue to challenge yourself, continue to be curious, and there's a number of vehicles that would enable you to learn about what we do and how things are going to impact your life directly and certainly indirectly in the way we live.
Well, thank you so much, Tom. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. Can you please tell our listeners where they could go if they'd like to learn a little bit more about you or DataGryd and what you guys are doing?
Sure. And thanks again for having me. It was my pleasure. You can go to DataGryd.com, or you can reach out to me directly, which is tbrown@DataGryd.com.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Interconnect Hub podcast powered by DataGryd. DataGryd is a premier data center provider located in the iconic 60 Hudson Street building. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you consume your audio. To learn more about DataGryd and the services they provide, visit www.datagryd.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.